speak to a former chief executive of the Football Association, Mark Palios, who joins us now. Hello, Mark.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. We're just wanting to chat about this idea of miking up referees after the extraordinary events of Sunday and another statement today. As I understand it, the FA and the Premier League have been offered the chance to do this, but have rejected it. Why would that be?
Well, I wasn't aware that they'd been offered the chance to do it and rejected it, but one has to question why would they reject it, and if it's because there's something to hide, because they don't actually want to have the conversations with the referees and between the referees and the players, then one has to question why that's the case.
With all these things, is it basically down to FIFA in the end, or can the Premier League and the FA change football in some way, maybe in a minor way, unilaterally?
Well, they tend to do it in conjunction with FIFA, and if you look at do you remember the 10-yard rule where people had to go back 10 yards from a free kick? That was tried in this country quite successfully for a number of years. FIFA didn't pick it up in the end of the day because they felt that was a British problem rather than anything that was happening elsewhere, but it actually improved things. And again, that was something that was borrowed from rugby, as it happens.
See, Mark, I actually think of people making the comparisons with rugby and football about referees being mic'd up. The reason that the referees are mic'd up in rugby is not necessarily to justify the decisions. It's because in rugby, at one stage or another, you'll get 16 bodies all around the ball. And when a referee gives a penalty in rugby, then he clarifies to the crowd why he's given that penalty. The worry I've got in football, number one, the players will come out far worse because some of the supporters won't believe the context and the language that the players use and how they speak to referees. And number two, referees will have to justify their decisions, and that could cause more problems in the crowd.
Yeah, the first thing is, the best interest, my father-in-law actually looks after rugby's for referee, so I appreciate, and I said that this morning, that in fact, the way it started in rugby was the fact that the decisions of referees are a bit more difficult to discern, even if you played the game for many years. The point is not about getting rid of the bad language particularly. The point I was trying to make is that if you see all the bad stuff that we've been through and if you want to make changes, the FA at the moment respond to things, and rightly so. So they respond on things like they are recording the testimony when people give evidence to the tribunal, because that's something that went astray last time. Okay, so you respond. I'm talking about leadership. I'm talking about the fact that, as everybody who's played knows, that if you actually want to stop back chat to referees, it's actually quite a simple thing, and there are very few things in life where it's simple. You give them a yellow card every time they do it. It won't take too long before people, if a chairman's paid £30 million for a player and he's sitting in the stand next to him rather than being on the pitch, I think you might find things will change pretty quickly.
Mark,
so it's more about that. It's more about the total context within which we're talking about, rather than just the bad language, which we've all played and we all know that it goes on, etc. But it may actually provide everybody a bit of a reason to change.
Mark, I agree 100%. Some of the back chat that goes on to referees and the way they're spoke to is absolutely appalling. But it has to start from grassroots level, because in rugby, from mini rugby, from when the players are 6, 7, 8, 9, they are taught that the referees is God, basically. Whatever decision he gives, you do not back chat him, you do not swear at him. So it has to start at grassroots, from managers, coaches, parents.
Disagree. I disagree with that entirely. Because, as I say, there are very few things whereby, I spent years in terms of change management and in terms of business. This is one of those things where you're changing a culture. It's difficult to do. So, yeah.
No, it's not, Mark. No, it's not. You start with a directive from the FA and you say to the parents, the coaches, the managers around the pitch, you do not back chat, you do not swear at the referee, you do not go back at him. And it might take 10 years to change that culture. I've watched football and I've watched rugby, and the culture around rugby is totally different towards the referee. The referees are alienated, and some of the stuff they have to put up with in grassroots football on Sunday mornings is an absolute disgrace. That doesn't happen at rugby, because the younger players are taught that the referee is God.
See what guys have to put up with. My daughter's referee, and they have to put up with it, so I understand that. The point is how you fix it and how you can fix it quickly. If I showed you the letters that I got when I was at the FA, which, take for example, one I remember very vividly that came in straight after the regular bun fight at Old Trafford between Arsenal and Man United, and the father writes in and says, how on earth can I tell my kids to respect the referee when you see this that goes on the pitch?
No, Mark,
I disagree with you. I actually think if you can stop it at the top
No, Mark, I'm not having that, because I'm a father whose children played football, right? And if they backchat the referee, it's my responsibility as a father to stop my children from doing it, not the players because they watch them. You can't say, I've watched a player play on the TV, so the parents go, actually, because Wayne Rooney does it, I can't stop little Johnny doing it who's 10. Not having it whatsoever.
I mean, and you're right, you're probably a great father. A lot of fathers, I would hope, would do that. But the reality is that the kids look at what goes on the television, they think that's acceptable. Certainly my kids, I wouldn't expect to do that. And yes, I can control my kids, but does everybody do that? I don't know. I just actually think you can actually... Listen, you know it's like, if the manager slaps you on the cheeks as you go out onto the pitch, he sets the tone to the way in which you play. And if he doesn't, why are you paying him the money he's being paid?
Don't you think they do that rugby, Mark? Don't you think that rugby players and that's more an aggressive game than football. Rugby is all about aggression and attrition. So they'll get motivated before they go out and play.
Yeah, they do, yeah. But what I'm saying is the managers can set the tone, and you can set the tone in a very aggressive... I played rugby until I was 18. It's a very aggressive game. It's a very macho game, but actually they're the ones. I remember when I was sitting at the FA and I watched the World Cup final in rugby, and you may recall, but about seconds before the full-time whistle, in Australia got a penalty. It was eminently kickable, and it was a dubious decision. The guys just looked at the referee, just got up, turned around, and trotted back. And I looked at that and I thought, yeah, if you could have that in football, how good would that be?
The Premier League and the PGMO will actually say to you that they're actually the way they're doing things is right, because over the last years they'll say that bookings for the centre back actually gone down 50%.
Yeah, are you saying you're happy with the way the level?
No, I'm not saying. I'm saying that that's what the Premier League and the PGMO will say to you.
You only have to look at the pictures in the paper to actually see, the dissent on the players and the way the way they approach referees. I mean,
is just a final point, Mark. If Chelsea are going to prove that this happened, how are they going to prove it? I know they've got an expensive legal team and they've made an official complaint to the FA, etc., etc. But how are they going to actually prove that this happened?
Well, it's going to come down to the civil burden of proof on the balance of probabilities. So you're going to have whatever the Chelsea guys are saying and whatever presumably is being said by the officials in terms of they heard the exchanges over the open mic. So from my perspective, I'm not sure how you actually prove that if it's a question of he said this and she said that.
No.
And that's the problem that you get, and that's one of the reasons if you did actually. If you had the recordings of the open mic, this wouldn't be a problem. But that's very specific. That's just one case. I think that the benefit of the open mic is that, I mean, probably, do you agree or don't agree in terms of the issue for a referee is he makes 4 or 5 decisions in a game, big decisions. He's got to get most of them right, and he will get some wrong, but he's got to get most of them right. The rest of it is man management. A recording, and I know there's an issue as to whether you make it available to the crowd or not, but a recording of the referee's conversations with his officials is, if you like, a record of how he's man-managed the game. Now, if that's the key thing in terms of assessing a referee, I would have thought that the PGMO would welcome having that there on the recording. And if you look at most businesses these days, they record conversations. They record telephone conversations.
Mark, I agree with you, because the only people who come out looking bad if the referee's mic'd up, trust me, will be the players, because of the way that they talk to referees and the way they approach them. The thing with my disagreement with the way football referees are seen as the enemy by everybody. They're seen by the enemy as the away team, the home team, the managers, the players, the pundits, the media. So they're being more and more isolated. They're under more and more pressure. Whereas in rugby and in cricket, the officials are seen as part of the game. That's what I think the problem is.
Yeah, it's a cultural thing, and we just disagree on the way to fix it. I think it's a harder job to try and fix it down at grassroots level than it is to fix it at the top. And that's why I say there are very few things where you change culture with one big thing at the top. But I actually think this would work.
Mark,
we disagree on that, I think. But
I think you'll have
Mark,
to
do both.
Agree to disagree on
Do
that
both.
one. But thanks for spending some time talking to us. It's a fascinating insight into how this may or may not be resolved.